If you are listening to this right now, it is not by accident. You didn't stumble into this message. You were led here. There are moments when God doesn't whisper, He interrupts. And this is one of those moments. Because the comeback God is preparing in your life is not small. It's not quiet. It's not subtle. It's the kind of comeback that makes people pause. The kind that forces silence. The kind that makes the world say, "Wait, weren't they finished?" But heaven never said you were done. Tonight we are talking to the chosen ones. The ones who were buried, not realizing they were being planted. The ones who were counted out, while God was counting down. The ones whose absence confused people, but whose return is about to shock them. Take a breath. This message is heavy, because it's holy. Let's address the pain you don't talk about. The betrayal. The humiliation. The moment people watched you fall, and didn't help. Some even celebrated. What hurt the most wasn't the failure itself. It was the audience. But here's what God wants you to understand. Your fall was never punishment, it was positioning. God allowed the collapse to be visible because the comeback needs witnesses. Joseph didn't rise in secret. Job didn't get restored quietly. David didn't return to the throne unnoticed. When God redeems a chosen life, He does it in front of the same people who doubted Him. You weren't exposed to be destroyed. You were exposed so no one could deny what God did next. There was a season where heaven felt quiet. Prayers unanswered. Doors closed. Messages left unseen. And the enemy whispered, "God has moved on." But hear this clearly. God does His loudest work in silence. Seeds don't grow on stages. They grow underground. While people assumed you were stagnant, God was restructuring you. While they labeled you forgotten, God labeled you hidden. Because what God is about to release through you cannot be rushed. It requires depth, maturity, fire-tested faith. You weren't ignored. You were being fortified. Let's pause here, because this is where many people misunderstand what God is doing in your life. You think this comeback is about you finally being happy again, about peace returning, about your name being cleared, about doors reopening. And yes, God cares about all of that. But that's not the reason. This comeback was never meant to stop with you. God is about to restore you in public because your life is about to become a message. Not something you preach with a microphone, but something heaven preaches through your survival. There are people watching you who will never open a Bible. They won't attend church. They don't trust religion. But they are watching you. They saw you fall. They saw the breakdown. They saw the silence. They saw the disappearing act. And when God lifts you, they will be forced to ask a question they've been avoiding. How did they survive that? That question is holy ground. Because when logic has no answer, people start listening for God. What almost destroyed you is about to disciple someone else. The nights you cried alone. The prayers you whispered with no strength left. The moments you wanted to quit but stayed anyway. Those moments weren't wasted. God was collecting evidence. Evidence that grace works. Evidence that mercy is real. Evidence that God still resurrects lives everyone else buried. You didn't just endure suffering. You carried revelation through it. And now God is saying, "Show them what I can do with someone who didn't give up." You've probably asked this question. God, why didn't you just take me out of it? Why didn't He stop the betrayal? Why didn't He silence the rumors? Why didn't He rescue you sooner? Because deliverance doesn't always produce faith. Survival does. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't convince a king by escaping the fire. They convinced him by walking through it, and not smelling like smoke. Some people will only believe in God when they see someone live through what should have killed them. And that someone was you. When God restores you, it will do something dangerous to fear. It will make other people believe they can try again. The woman who gave up on prayer will pray again. The man who thought God forgot him will reconsider. The person on the edge will step back from it, because you survived. Your life is about to give people permission to hope. That's why the delay was necessary. That's why the suffering was deep. That's why the healing had to be real. God doesn't send fake testimonies into a broken world. You wanted restoration quietly. God said no, not because He wanted to embarrass you, but because He wanted to expose the lie that He abandons His own. The same people who questioned God when you fell will glorify God when you rise. Your comeback is a rebuttal to the enemy, a living contradiction, a reminder that God finishes what He starts. Listen carefully. God is not just healing you. He is positioning you. You are becoming a sign in the earth. A sign that the pit doesn't cancel the promise. A sign that delay doesn't erase destiny. A sign that the calling still stands, even after the collapse. People won't just hear about God. They'll see Him in you. So when it happens, when the doors open, when the restoration begins, when the shift becomes undeniable, remember this. This was never about revenge. Never about ego. Never about proving people wrong. It was about proving God faithful. Your comeback is not just for you. It's for the ones who are watching quietly, wondering if God would ever do it for them too. And through your life, heaven is about to answer. Yes. Let's be honest, the attack against you was excessive. Others made mistakes and moved on. But when you fell, the resistance multiplied. Why? Because hell doesn't attack what doesn't matter. The intensity of the opposition was proportional to the impact of your assignment. The enemy saw what you were carrying before you did. And now that season is ending. Here's the shocking part. God is not bringing you back to where you were. He's bringing you back greater. What you lost refined you. What broke you built discernment. What delayed you deepened your authority. You're returning with wisdom, not just talent. With humility, not just confidence. With oil, not just opportunity. This comeback is upgraded. Be prepared. Some will struggle to reconcile the old version of you with who you are becoming. They will say, "You've changed." Yes. That's called growth. You didn't go through fire to come back the same. Jesus wasn't recognized immediately after the resurrection either. Transformation often confuses those who only knew your wounds. This part may be the hardest to hear. Because waiting feels like rejection when you don't understand it. You prayed. You fasted. You stayed faithful even when it hurt. And still, nothing moved. So the question started forming in your heart. If God loves me, why didn't He do it sooner? But hear this with clarity and compassion. God did not wait because He was unwilling. He waited because you were becoming ready. There are things God cannot release early. Not because they are bad, but because they are too powerful for an unprepared vessel. Delay is not denial. It is divine protection. At the beginning, you wanted the breakthrough to feel better, to be seen again, to finally be validated. And God understands that. But if He had lifted you then, you would have carried people's approval as your fuel. So God waited. Until your hunger shifted. Until you wanted His presence more than applause. Until your joy no longer depended on being noticed. Until you learned how to sit with Him without an audience. God doesn't elevate hearts that still need permission from people to feel worthy. He waited until your roots went deeper than recognition. There was a time when you believed hard work alone could fix everything. That strategy, discipline, and effort were enough. But then God allowed a season where none of that worked. You tried harder, and still nothing moved. You planned better, and still doors stayed shut. Why? Because God was gently breaking your reliance on self. Not to humiliate you, but to free you. He waited until your prayer changed from, "God, bless what I'm doing," to, "God, I won't move unless you do." Power flows best through surrendered hands. Some wounds only surface in stillness. If God had accelerated your life, you would have outrun the pain, but you wouldn't have healed it. The insecurity, the abandonment wound, the fear of loss, the need to be needed. Success would have buried those issues, not cured them. So God slowed you down long enough for the truth to rise. He waited until you faced the parts of yourself you avoided, until you forgave what hurt you, until you released what you were carrying that wasn't yours. Because elevation without healing creates public collapse later. God waited because He loves you too much to expose you before He restored you, before you knew what you did. But God wanted you to know who you are. When everything familiar was stripped away, titles, platforms, connections, momentum, you were left with one question. If I lose all of this, am I still valuable? And in the silence, God answered it. Not with blessings, not with applause, but with presence. He waited until you learned that your worth does not come from productivity, usefulness, or performance. You are loved because you exist. And now, when success returns, it won't define you. This part is critical. The comeback is not the destination. It's the doorway. What God is about to trust you with will require maturity, restraint, discernment, and endurance. He waited until you could carry success without pride, influence without ego, authority without aggression, favor without forgetting Him. Because the next season is heavier than the last. And God never places weight on a structure He hasn't reinforced. Every tear you cried in private became strength. Every unanswered prayer shaped discernment. Every silent day built endurance. Nothing was lost. Heaven was working on a timeline you couldn't see. And now, as this season shifts, God is saying, you don't have to rush anymore. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to fear being left behind. Because the delay did its job. Not earlier. Not later. Now. Now that your heart is anchored. Now that your faith is resilient. Now that your identity is unshakable. Now that your yes is pure. God didn't forget you. He was preparing you for a future that wouldn't break you. Chosen one. If God waited, it was never to harm you. It was to protect what He placed inside you. And now that the preparation is complete, the doors will open without strain. The favor will flow without striving. The elevation will come without compromise. Because when God finally says, now, nothing can stop it. There is something unsettling about this season. Not chaotic. Not confusing. But sudden. You can feel it. Nothing on the outside has changed yet. But on the inside, something is shifting. A restlessness you can't explain. A quiet urgency in your spirit. A sense that waiting is almost over, but you don't know how or when. That feeling is not anxiety. It's alignment. Here's what most people misunderstand about God. He works in seasons of preparation, but He releases in moments of acceleration. Joseph waited years in prison, then rose in a single day. David was anointed as a boy, but crowned in a moment. Lazarus was dead for 4 days, but resurrected in seconds. The waiting season trains you for endurance. The release season tests your readiness. And the release often arrives without warning. When God moves suddenly, it doesn't mean things fall apart. It means they fall into place. One conversation will clarify years of confusion. One opportunity will answer prayers you stopped praying. One divine interruption will reorder your timeline. What feels sudden to you has been scheduled in heaven. This is not luck. This is alignment meeting obedience. If God told you the exact moment, you would overthink it, over-prepare, over-control. So God hides the timing, but reveals the signs. The peace you have despite uncertainty, the detachment from outcomes, the quiet confidence replacing desperation. These are not random emotions. They are indicators that the season is turning. God is not dangling hope in front of you. He is arranging logistics you cannot see. Conversations behind closed doors. Decisions being made without your name in the room. Yet made for you. You are being discussed in rooms you haven't entered yet. Not because of manipulation. Not because of networking. But because favor is speaking on your behalf. When it happens, your first response won't be pride. It will be all. You will look back and realize how close you were to giving up. How many times you almost walked away. How easily you could have missed it. And gratitude will flood you. Not for the breakthrough alone, but for the strength to survive the wait. This is critical. Do not rush. Do not force doors. Do not announce plans prematurely. Stay clean in heart. Stay obedient in small things. Stay faithful in private. The closer the breakthrough, the quieter God often becomes. Not because He's absent, but because He's working. What took years to break will not take years to rebuild. What felt permanent will be temporary. What looked dead will move again. God redeems time. He restores momentum. And He does it faster than logic allows. Your plans are about to be interrupted by something better. Not because your plans were wrong, but because they were limited. God is about to exceed your expectations, without asking your permission. And when it happens, you will understand why it couldn't come sooner. The shock is coming sooner than you think. Not to overwhelm you, but to confirm you. Not to confuse you, but to position you. Not to glorify you, but to reveal God. So stay grounded. Stay humble. Stay ready. Because when heaven moves, it doesn't send a warning. It sends a sudden. Let this sink into your spirit. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are right on time. The same God who allowed the fall has already scheduled the rise. And this time, you're not just coming back, you're coming back anointed, aware, and unstoppable. Take a moment. Don't rush past this. Because what you are stepping into now is not just a new season. It's a new understanding of who you are and how God works through you. You've survived what should have ended you. You endured what would have disqualified others. You remained standing in seasons that were designed to make you disappear. And now here you are. Not loud. Not desperate. Not striving. Still standing. That alone is evidence that God's hand has been on your life the entire time. Some people will think your comeback is the climax. It's not. It's the introduction. What God is restoring now is not the destination. It's the foundation for something greater. The doors opening are not the reward. They are the responsibility. The favor increasing is not for comfort. It's for assignment. God didn't preserve you just to give you a better life. He preserved you to give you a useful one. This time, you won't need to announce yourself. Your presence will speak. Your peace will speak. Your discernment will speak. You are no longer chasing validation. You are carrying authority. And authority doesn't argue. It doesn't explain. It doesn't perform. It stands. This is the strength that only comes from surviving storms without becoming bitter. Some will sense something different about you, but they won't have words for it. They will feel safe around you, drawn to you, convicted by your calm. Not because you are perfect, but because you are anchored. You don't need to convince anyone of what God has done. Fruit speaks louder than testimony. When the momentum returns, when the pace increases, when opportunities multiply, do not forget the version of you who prayed with tears, who trusted without evidence, who stayed faithful when no one was watching. That version of you is the reason you can now be trusted with more. Stay close to God in this next season. Proximity protects purpose. You are no longer being crushed to be shaped. You are being carried to be placed. The breaking season has ended. The building season has begun. And what God builds next will not require you to bleed to maintain it. Grace will sustain what suffering once prepared. You don't have to rush. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to fear losing what God gives. What comes from God stays under His covering. Move forward with humility, with obedience, with courage. You are not behind. You are aligned. The beginning of clarity. The beginning of authority. The beginning of impact that outlives applause. God is not done with you. He's just getting started. So breathe. Trust. and walk forward. Heaven has already gone ahead of you. And this is only the beginning. Chosen one, before you go, I want to speak to the givers, the ones whose hearts feel called to pour back into the vessel that pours into them. If this message awakened you, if it strengthened you, if it spoke to your spirit in a way only heaven could orchestrate, then I invite you, only if your heart feels led, to sow a $1 seed into this channel. Not because God needs it, but because giving is a spiritual law. A small seed carries big obedience. And God multiplies what is given with pure intention. Your $1 keeps this ministry alive, keeps the messages flowing, and helps this word reach the next chosen one who needs it. If you feel that nudge in your spirit, if you feel that gentle pull, you can plant your $1 seed using the link in the description. And if you can't or don't feel led, you are still loved, still seen, and still covered. Blessings to every giver, and blessings to every listener. Your seed moves heaven in ways you may never see. But God sees it all.